really can't be bothered to explain, but since it is literally 1 a.m. in the morning for me at the moment, let's do a read through of r/NoSleep. If you don't know what r/NoSleep is, the community detail says here, NoSleep is a subreddit for realistic horror stories. Everything is true here, even if it's not. So, let's begin. During my investigation, I discovered a creature I can't explain, pictures included. I've been working as a private investigator here in New Hampshire for a few years now. I'm good at what I do. You might have an image in your head of a noir detective, but to be honest, I work with far more cheating spouses than backlit alleys. I was sitting in my cramped office one afternoon when a girl walked in. She introduced herself as Bethany. She had bright red hair, freckles, looked to be around 14 years old. "What can I do for you, Bethany?" I asked, gesturing for her to take a seat. She sat down, gripping a small white envelope as she was afraid it would float away. "My brother Nick has been missing for a few days, and I'm worried about him." She was young, but her eyes were hard and calculating. They swept around my office before returning to me. Something about her reminded of my little sister Jane when she was at this age. "Missing person cases are handled by the police," I said. "Why don't you go to them? They'll investigate for free." "No," she nearly shouted. "I can't." "Why not?" "I just can't." I set my hands on my desk, waiting. Most people hate silence and fill it on their own. After a long moment's hesitation, she continued. "My brother and I are orphans. We spent 11 years in foster homes. My brother turned 18 last year and became my guardian. We left the foster homes and got our own apartment. If the police found out he's missing, though," she trailed off. You could go back to a foster home until I find him," I finished. "Don't you have anyone you trust? Any family friends? Yikes." "No," she said, and shot to her feet. She passed the envelope across my desk. "I won't go back to those homes. And like I said, I have money to pay you." I opened the envelope to see an assortment of $1 and $5 bills. It couldn't have been more than $50 in total. I looked up at her and saw that she was fighting back tears. She was a small thing sitting in my armchair, scared and pitiful. A wave of protectiveness towards her swept over me, and I passed her back the envelope. "You don't have to pay until we find him," I said. Relief shone in her face. She accepted the money, stuffing it back into her pocket. It made me question whether she would have enough to eat if I'd kept it. I spent the next few minutes going over where her brother might have gone. According to Bethany, Nick had been searching for any living relatives. The night he disappeared, he'd been heading for a promising address he'd found. She didn't know exactly where, just that it was in Vermont. Yikes. All I had to go on was their first names, their last name, and their dates of birth. Searching all the hospitals and censuses for their birth certificates would be a mammoth task. From there, finding an address from the parents' names would be another job entirely. If most people would take weeks or months to do that, I'm not most people. I won't bore you with any details, just let me say it took me the better part of an afternoon. I sent Bethany to the store with a 20 to bring back some coffee for me and Pop-Tarts for her. She returned, and just as the sun began to get low in the sky, I managed to find a birth certificate for her. "Your parents' names are Henry Ives and Juliet Ives," I said. She nodded. "I think I remember hearing that once." Another quick search brought me to a property in Vermont, a property apparently still owned by the now deceased Juliet and Henry Ives. I tapped my screen. "I think I found a good place to search for your brother. Now, why don't you head home and let me check the place out? I'll be back tomorrow to let you know what I find." Bethany shook her head. "I'm coming with you." I sighed. Bethany, didn't anyone tell... Sorry, my mind just went there. Anyone tell you not to trust strangers? Her eyes hardened again. I had to live with strangers every day for 11 years. Don't lecture me about strangers. Ooh. I raised my hands in apology. She shook her head and continued. Anyway, if you don't take me, you don't get the money. I sighed, not bothering to tell her that $50 wouldn't even begin to cover my normal fees. Fine, I said. To be honest, I was thinking that she'd be the only person who'd be able to identify Nick's body. People rarely disappear. Most of the time, when they do, it means they've been in a car accident. I half expected this excursion to end at a local morgue with Bethany identifying Nick's body. I shook the thought from my head. Who knew what I'd find? I loaded up my car and set off up 189. The sun set and a full moon rose, covering the landscape with a pale white light. The drive took us deep into a forested area. Soon the road turned bumpy, but after another few minutes driving, we were there. The house was massive and clearly abandoned. The entire area was lit up with moonlight, so much so that I was able to take this picture. Alright, let's see. Alright. Classic one. The entire building oozed a feeling of uneasy. The corners of my mouth twisted as I watched the gnarled trees surrounding the building. Something about it made me feel sick to my stomach. Bethany gasped. I whirled around, bringing up a flashlight, half expecting to see something between these two trees. Instead, I saw a motorcycle leaning against a tree beside the road. That's Nick's motorcycle, Bethany said, her voice sounding excited. He's got to be in there. Or was he here, at least? I said. Or was here, at least? I said. Yikes. I didn't know what to make of it. Had Nick been spending a few days and nights here in this house? I tossed Bethany my flashlight and told her to stay behind me. We made our way down up the mossy steps. I tried the doorknob, and to my surprise, it opened easily. I stepped inside the entryway, lit up by the moonlight that streamed through the large upper windows. I lit my phone's flashlight at them all the same. Nick, I shouted into the house. I'm here with your sister Bethany. You here? There was no response. I took a few cautious steps into the house. The outside was clearly abandoned, but far out. But the inside looked pristine. I rubbed my finger across the mantel in the living room and felt no dust. I picked up the single picture frame that sat there, shining my light into it. A man and a woman with bright hair smiling back at me, clearly siblings. Both were the spitting image of Bethany. I handed the picture to her and continued into the house. Wait, so was it Bethany and Nick, or like... Huh. Bethany, Nick, I shouted again. I took a picture of the living room on my phone. Bethany passed beside me, taking a few steps towards the tall hallway. Nick, she shouted, her voice shrill. She turned to me, her face thoughtful. This place looks familiar to me. Then a wet, slithering voice came. Oh, no. No, I don't like that. A wet, slithering voice came echoing from down the hallway. Bethany, it's so good to see you again. Though seeing Master Mick again was also unexpected. He spoke with a mid-Atlantic accent. It sounded like something from the 1920s. Ooh. A faint dripping sound came from the darkness. I reached forward and pulled Bethany back behind me, still holding my phone in one hand. A dark silhouette appeared in the hallway, limping as it walked towards us. Who are you? I asked, my voice catching in my throat. Some part of my mind was telling me screaming at me to run, telling me that who are you is the wrong question, telling me that what are you would have been better. What have you forgotten? Bethany, We served house Ives for generations, giving counsel and, when necessary, correction. As he spoke, water dribbled from his mouth and splattered across the carpet, as though he was salivating? Interesting word. He took one last step forward, stepping into the moonlight, still streaming into the house by the upper windows. He wore an old-fashioned butler suit, but his nose, mouth, and throat all looked as if they had been torn away by rats. The top of his head was bald, pale, and shone like a lamp in the moonlight. Each of his fingers were long and splintered, resembling tree roots or octopus tentacles more than fingers. I squeezed the camera on my phone, taking a picture. God, give me strength. Oh boy. Okay, I thought it was going to be scarier. Good 3D, good art though, good art. Oh no, I don't like the eyes behind. He smiled and leaned forward, shouting towards us again. I spun through Bethany over my shoulder and sprinted for the door. The dribbling, slithering sound grew louder and louder in my ears as I raced for the door. I slammed the door shut behind us, and I almost fell as I made my way down the mossy steps, still carrying dead Bethany. I reached the car, tossing her inside, and turned the engine over. When I looked up the house, I saw the door wide open. I threw the car into drive first and drive again as I spun the car around. We shot down the dark, bumpy road as fast as I could without losing control. We spent a long moment not speaking. Bethany began sobbing quietly where she sat. I looked over and saw she was still holding the photo I'd taken from the mantel. I let her cry for a while, just driving back to our city. When she'd stopped, I cleared my throat. Listen, I said. My sister Jane has a house nearby. Why don't I drop you off there for the night? I don't think it's good for you to be alone. She nodded. I called my sister and made the arrangements, and soon we were there. Jane came up and helped her into the house, talking of watching a movie together. I sat in my car for a long time trying to process what I'd seen. I looked over at the seat where she'd been sitting and picked up the picture frame. I undid the back and pulled the picture out, examining the back of the photo. There was a small message written, Juliet and Brad, December 20th, 2003. Brad Ives. He must have been Bethany's uncle. Maybe he was still alive. I'm gonna contact him and see what I can find out about everything. Whenever I learn anything else, I'll update you all here. I love this comment. What the frick, dude? This is 2019 and slavery is long dead. They are paid employees with benefits. Pretty much. I'm playing a virtual reality game. This one should be interesting since it is relatable. I'm just gonna say this before I start reading it. I'm not really a big fan of VR. I'd like to try it. I've never tried it, but I'm not a big fan of it because it means that we're one step away from losing all sense of humanity. And that scares me. So here we go again. I messed up, guys. I messed up so incredibly bad. You know the character we all talk bad about in books and movies, the one who makes obviously terrible decisions and ignores glaring red flags. I'm that dumbass right now, and I need your help and try and get out of this mess. So let me explain the stupidest thing I've ever done in my life, yeah? It starts off reasonable enough. I recently lost my job, may have been avidly searching for something new. I'm not super broke, but I have limited savings. I got roughly a month-ish, maybe two if I pinch pennies harder than Scrooge. Suffice it to say, I needed a job. Coming through the classifieds of the newspaper, I kept nicking from my parents. I spotted a pretty basic help wanted ad. Virtual reality program, testing needed. Pay $20 per hour, contract length open-ended. It had a number listed underneath. Okay, yes, it was a very little information, and what would put a feeler out hurt. I made contact and set up a time to meet with this with a perfectly sweet, normal-sounding woman who took my call. She gave me the address, which I googled. It looked legit. I took some time to sort myself into a respectable-looking human before heading to meet her. The little office was nice. The exterior was well-groomed. One of the several suites housing other businesses, and the interior was everything you'd expect from a totally legitimate company. I met with a phone lady. I think her name was Susan, and she gave me a rundown on the job. Her company had created a virtual reality game where the user would go through a reader beware, you choose the scare type deal but in game form. Obviously, it sounded like a lot of fun. She told me I could take as much time as I wanted. In fact, the more the better, so they could maximize data collection, but that I must complete the game. She didn't say what would happen if I didn't finish. I just assumed there was some kind of non-payment clause built into the contract. Red flag numero uno. Yeah, I'm just gonna say this, and my friend Daniel, he'll agree with me with this one. This seems a lot like Black Mirror. Just saying. The episode that I saw, that Daniel was streaming in the drama room at school yesterday. This seems like that. I didn't have to worry about clocking hours, as I could easily track with my game data. I was told I'd been given a one-time access code to get into the building where the system was kept. No key cards or anything necessary. I thought it was a little weird to be getting a one-time access code, since it seemed like it'd be a several-day contract, at least, but assumed I'd be given a new one I'd completed the first day. Maybe it was a protection deal in case things didn't pan out. Red flag number 2. After going over some minor details, signing a few things and getting my access code along with the address of the testing site, she sent me on my way. I'd start tomorrow and could come in afternoon, since I'm a bit of a night owl. Red flag number 3. I was really excited. I called my mum and shared the news and let her know it wasn't the shady sham she'd thought. Again, I know. And she said she was glad I could stop grocery shopping at their house, giving only my undying love as payment. I woke bright and early, 11 a.m. Same. Cleaned up, put on professional attire, leggings, and the comfiest of t-shirts, and headed over onto the site. My GPS wove me through the city and toward its limit to a secluded, wooded area. I seriously thought I'd entered the address wrong until I spotted the warehouse. It was plain and small enough that it may not even be considered a warehouse. It had darkened windows with a shabby-looking grey exterior and a run-down parking area. It also looked totally abandoned. Double-checking the address against my GPS told me I was in the right place, so I hopped out of the car and jogged over to a window. Nada. They were too dark to see into. Undeterred, I needed that money. I walked over to the door. Alongside the handle sat a keypad. Okay, maybe this is really it, I thought. This is where I messed up, guys. This is the moment where everybody would be yelling at the screen in a failed effort to prevent the train wreck they can see coming a mile away. I keyed the code and stepped inside, letting the door shut behind me. I know, guys, I know. A matter of fact that the character knows they messed up is... yeah, it's nice to know that a character knows that they effed up big time. The lighting was dim inside, and there was not another soul to be seen. Moving forward, I set my stuff on the little desk that had been provided, along with a stocked fridge and a small cot. Off to the side was a door labeled locker room, where presumably the bathroom could be found. Beside the desk was a stand that held a small headset, gloves, and what looked like a bodysuit. There were no wires, no tower or console. screen of controllers. I was impressed they'd created a system that seemed to be completely independent from the source. Eager to start, I slipped off my shoes and slipped into the suit. It was weird but quite comfortable, almost like a second skin. Sliding the headset over my eyes, I found it to be really lightweight and unobtrusive. I don't know what that means. It had a secure fit, ensuring it wouldn't slide around so I could move freely, but not so much that I could feel the telltale pressure of an impending headache from wearing it. After a moment, the darkness faded away to the game's main screen. I raised my hand, tap start, and the game began with a cutscene explaining that they were trying to get back to your world after mysteriously being transported to another. In order to do that, you would need to reach the teleporter located at the end of the game. Okay, simple enough. The game opened with me standing in front of two doors. Each was unique. The first was something of an old Victorian-style home. It was wooden with beautiful stained glass windows. There seemed to be a warm glow just visible through the styled, slightly distorted glass, but nothing else. The other was heavy-looking, like something from a castle dungeon. It was also wooden with iron fittings to strengthen it against what lay inside. The small barred window betrayed nothing of what was behind the door. Of course, I chose the Victorian door because I figured certain death obviously awaited behind the other. Yeah. I turned the other and the door swung soundlessly forward. I stepped through and instantly felt warm. Not overly so, but the soothing warmth of walking into your grandparents' house. I could hear the crack of old wood floors underneath my feet as I walked through toward what I thought was what I would learn was the kitchen. There I found the sweetest looking Nana on the planet with a light grey bun and one of those scarves hanging over her shoulder. I could hear pots boiling on the stove and a soothing background to her light humming. If I didn't know I wasn't wearing something on my nose, I'd swear I could even smell the delicious aromas wafting in from her dishes. Come have a seat, dear. Nana knows just the thing for you, she spoke gently. I took a seat and watched her bustle around the kitchen. She asked me how I was doing, if I was hungry, all the normal things a grandma would do. I gave a little small talk in return and momentarily got lost in the memory of visits with my real Nana. My heart ached a little at the thought, but it was thankfully interrupted as she sit down at the tea tray in front of me. After grabbing a splash of milk and a scoop of sugar from the service, I took a deep sip, letting the swirling warmth fill my mouth as the flavors delighted my tongue, oddly wondering how I needed to progress the game. At the time it took me to realize that I shouldn't be feeling anything in my mouth or tasting anything in my tongue. I was out. I woke bound and lying on the kitchen table. The old woman, with her sweet face and gentle voice, was gathering tools and setting up beside me, each one sharp or jagged or other way of holy shit. That escalated so quickly, or otherwise nightmarish. Sent shivers of fear through me. I tried to speak but found myself gagged. As she cut away my clothing, I felt the warm air tickling my skin. Tears began falling from my eyes. What a lovely meal you'll make, dear. What the fuck? She commented as she made the first slice down my stomach. Oh! I felt the pain as my skin separated, the burn of bile rising in my throat as she made a few more. The first thing to do is remove your innards, of course, to make room for the stuffing. I don't like that. She chuckled as she pinned twin flaps on my skin to either side. Grabbing a bone cutter, she started it on my ribs, clipping away on my sternum so she could get to my heart. It was excruciating. If I weren't so ready to die just to escape the agony, I'd have been marveling at how I hadn't passed out yet. After what felt like hours of cracking my bones, she set the god-awful tool down and released a shaky breath of relief. Nothing could be as bad as that, right? She picked up a small scalpel, with which she could make very fine and precise cuts. One want to hurt that pretty little heart getting it out of your chest, now would we? Oh, she asked in that sweet little voice that currently haunts my dreams. Listen, guys, I know I was silently begging for death before, but I didn't truly want to die. Neither. That's... yikes, man. Oh, goodness. That is like... yeah. That's messed up. Did you know that a person can continue living for approximately 3 to 6 minutes after their heart stops, or in my case, it is removed, until their brain dies from a lack of oxygen? Well, now you know, and so do I. Like if you not to learn the hard way as you feel your heart cut from your body and watch as it pulses its last in an adorable little old lady's hand. Why did you put adorable in there now? I was still awake long enough to hear her sweet voice tell me, next we need to get those pesky vocal cords out. I don't like all that noise, and they don't bake well anyway. I usually boil them down with some cabbage, give it a nice flavor. I thought I was numbered out, free from more pain. I was wrong. Having my throat shredded and your vocal cords slowly pulled out to keep them as intact as possible, and I did start losing it. I didn't fight it. I felt my brain die as the lights faded, as all feeling left me, as everything became silent and I drifted in the nothingness. It was my being before I finally mercifully lost the ability to think, and consciousness left me. And my senses were assaulted with the now too bright light filtering through the stainless glass of the closed Victorian door. The sound invaded my ears, one of cracking, creaking, and breaking as I realized the first door I had gone through was self-destructing. When it lay in a pile of rubble at my feet, I brought my ass to meet the side of the other door. I ripped my bloody headset. I ripped that bloody headset off. Throwing the thing away from me and onto the desk, I sank to my knees. I didn't realize I was crying until the salty tears reached my lips. Hadn't registered the screaming until my throat was raw from exertion. My chest was heaving as I struggled to breathe. Overwhelmed by what I just experienced, the pain of phantoms still ripped through my chest. It felt so damn real. After I calmed as much as one could after the most realistic virtual death on the bloody planet, I slipped out of the suit and socks. After haphazardly tossing them anywhere but near me, I grabbed my stuff and headed for the door. I wanted to get out there. I was already thinking about how I was going to drive over to see Susan and figure out what the actual hell had just happened to me. I didn't slow a bit as I made to the door and went to push it open, ready to exit this horrifying space, only to slam into the door and bounce backward when it didn't open. I tried, and again, but it wouldn't budge. Panic, I scrolled through my call history to find the number from the ad, hoping someone would answer on the other end. But when I put the phone to my ear, it didn't even ring before I heard the telltale beeps letting me know I was out of service range. Confirmed by the little message glaring at me from my screen when I pulled the phone away. With that revelation, I began checking to see if I could escape via a window, but it didn't open. Fine. I took my shirt off, wrapped it around my hand, and secured my keys in my fist from the tip of one poking out and punched the glass. As much as I'd love to say that little moment of badassery panned out, I can't. I only succeeded in giving myself a nasty bruise in the middle of my hand from the force of the key pushing backward into my palm. Still not ready to give up, grabbed the single chair from the desk and tried smashing it against the window. Unfortunately, this also did not work. There are no other escape routes as far as I can tell. After some calm and collected deliberation, definitely not screaming and crying, I sat down with my phone to see if I could make any kind of contact. I figured the system was wireless and they were tracking my game data. There had to be an internet source. Lo and behold, there's Wi-Fi. Of course, it's password protected. After some pretty impressive hacking, if I may say so myself, I cracked the code and was able to access the sweet internet. Just kidding, I actually searched the building for the router and snagged the password off the bottom of it. In any case, I do now have extremely limited access to the internet. If I try to do anything using the internet app, it force closes, so that's no dice. Much to my friend's annoyance, I was never into chat apps, so I couldn't try those, and whatever firewall they have is also blocking my access to the App Store. The only other application already on my phone that I can actually communicate with others on is, you guessed it, Reddit. I don't know what the hell to do, you guys. I'm stuck in this warehouse. No one knows where I am because after I was so sure the job was legit, I was too stupid to give someone the address in case things went sideways. I honestly don't even know how you could help me, but I'm at a loss here. I'm exhausted and scared, so I'm going to try and make use of that cot and get some sleep. I'll check back in a while and update if anything new happens. Interesting story. Actually interesting. Very close to what kind of nightmares I've had with VR. Like thinking about just VR in general. So yeah, that is our /NoSleep. If you guys want to see more, give me a like. Anything, tell me, or don't. I'll just continue making these. And I'll see you guys again next time. Bye!